All my paintings that I did for a very long time were just bodies, and they were very grotesque bodies. Everything was beheaded, everything was identityless, everything was monstrous because it had both genitalia. It was playing with sexuality, but then too much sexuality then becomes grotesque.
Diana Casanova's work is dark. That much is apparent. And though viewers may have their theories about what her pieces were created to express, only she can say for sure. And this is her story.
I started doing art at a really young age, like most artists do. My grandma's actually an artist, and so every summer we'd go out to Virginia. We didn't get to watch TV or anything, so we had to make our own activities. And since grandma is an artist, she actually taught me to draw, and so I started drawing from a really young age. She was actually really critical, and so I had to be pretty exact with what I was doing. She also had a bunch of really beautiful, like Art Nouveau, books. Like there was one that was Beauty and the Beast, and I remember just tracing those drawings and drawing them over and over again, just thinking about how beautiful they were. But there were also a few books in there that were horrifying, like In a Dark, Dark Room, where there's the green ribbon, where the girl's head falls off, or she's wearing the green ribbon. It's Jim and Jenny or something like that. I used to read those books down in her basement over and over again, and kind of started being fascinated with horror things. So in grad school, I originally started working with beheaded women based off that book, The Green Ribbon, that story with the green ribbon. Medusa is a beautiful maiden, actually in the Parthenon, I believe she's Athena's maiden, and she's so beautiful that she ends up being raped by Poseidon. Through that, she is punished by Athena and turned into the monster Medusa. I had a real issue with her being punished or being raped. Or there's also various stories where she seduced him. There's no reason for her to be punished for that sexual act. Medusa ends up fleeing. She goes remotely, and from then she is constantly pursued for her power. Her head is cut off by Perseus. She no longer could be beautiful to be the monster, which I don't understand in the stories. She had to become this grotesque thing, and they tend to describe her as almost a vulva. They tend to describe her as a vagina. They say, as weird as it is, they talk about her bulging eyes, they talk about these inflamed lips, how hairy, and how the snakes become the hair, and it's very grotesque and weird. I tend not to display her that way at all in my work. I tend to keep her both beautiful and powerful, but it's always the beheaded head. Within my work, I like to display Medusa as that there's a series I made right when her head is cut off. Her head's on this side, it's that last breath, and I kind of started relating that back to the queens that I drew in the past, where I want it to be that last moment of breath, where you still have consciousness. So even though she's beheaded, there's still power there. It tends to be, as women are coming to power, they are cut down, literally. As one of those, I found some kind of humor in it as well, as in when Anne Boleyn was beheaded, she made a joke at the very end about her little neck and that it wouldn't take much to get through it. Like, I just couldn't help but to laugh. Like, really at the last moment, that's what you gotta say. And apparently Marie Antoinette, when she was beheaded, her mouth was still moving, she was still saying things, but she was more so concerned about her children at the very end. And it was one of those weird things, what are these last thoughts as well. In my whole thesis, I kept wanting to tell stories, but instead I had to go into theories of why I was so interested in these things. A lot of it came into going to Freudian, but also I ended up going to mirror theory as well, which mirror theory is the reflection of yourself upon your mother, which the reason I drew the beheaded queens in the first place was reflection on my mom and my stepmom, and watching their conflict arise and making women, or going after other women. I read a couple books about how women betray women, how women make fault in the other woman, but they never accuse the male, or more so just the tearing down of each other. And so I created a conflict within my thesis of these two queens, even though they were not historically at the same time. but they were both women that had that same thing in common of being beheaded. Queens of a nation, mother of a nation. I made them go after each other. I made a conflict. Neither are made to be the victor, the hero, the heroine, or the villain. They're kind of both at the same time.
To see more of Diana's work, or find out where her next exhibit will be, visit dianacasanova.com. To keep up with her latest pieces, follow Diana Casanova Draws on Instagram.